Hi, new location today. I'm on holiday at the moment. Hopefully the audio quality is okay. Even though I'm on holiday, I wanted to stick to getting a video done, especially because this week was actually really interesting. Maybe the most beneficial week. I feel like I keep saying that, but I got a lot out of this week. I want to talk about my experience. A lot of this week was about time, how we use our time, and I felt, at least in terms of the chapters, this was the one that really spoke to me the most. So the first thing I want to get into is mourning artistic losses. When there is a loss, whether it be a project not doing well or feedback being taken a little personally, or anything that gets in the way of your artistic goals, we have a tendency to shut down or not listen to that pain properly. Julia gets into her experience working in academia and notes how she found a lot of academic people, especially ones teaching art, project their own insecurities onto their students' work, and there isn't enough opportunity for appreciating their work. It's a lot focused on just shutting down their work or calling out what isn't good about it. As someone who went to film school, I definitely relate to that. And look, I went to film school to learn. I'm not saying that what I was doing at the time that I was in film school was very good. I still feel like my first student short was really bad, but it's important at that stage, especially for someone like me who struggles a little bit to have self-validation about my own work. It's important to have people and mentors who see potential in you and boost you up and can show you a way forward without critiquing you too harshly. And I think that was something missing from my film school experience, and has provided a lot of doubt in my future as a filmmaker and my skills. The other thing about being in film school, you're taking in so much information about what makes a good film, and you're constantly analyzing and thinking about these things so much that it causes you to become, or at least it caused me to become, very overwhelmed by what I needed to do, and it made me get in my own way. There's a quote from the book that I'd like to read that really spoke to me, which is, "For an artist, to become overly cerebral is to become crippled." And I've talked a lot about overthinking as an artist and how it led to me not making anything. And I really think, in a way, going to film school, as much good as it did for me, because it did do a lot of good, I did learn a lot, but it also prevented me from trusting myself and feeling like I needed to have all these things figured out before I advanced further. And I've realized now that so much learning and so much growth comes from just trying things and sorting things out. Another thing that made me reflect on is, how does one even make cerebral art? One of my favorite artists of all time is Kendrick Lamar, and he's known for making a lot of very thoughtful and provocative music, and I really respect him for that. And hell, a lot of my favorite artists are like that. And it makes me wonder, how does one get to the point where they can spend so much time thinking about these things and it doesn't get in their way? Because, as much fun as I have making silly, fun art that's lighthearted and, it's getting me to be creative, it would be nice to make something that is a little bit more thoughtful, make something that's a bit more personal, express something that's a bit deeper. We'll just see how things go, I guess. I just need to trust the process. That was a big thing that was part of this week, too, is just having faith in the process and not the product. But I'll get into that shortly. There's going to be a lot of quote readings, actually, because there's a lot from this chapter, again, that really spoke to me and resonated with me. Without specific tools and sufficient ego strength, many gifted artists languish for years in the wake of such blows. Shamed at their supposed lack of talent, shamed by their, quote, grandiose dreams, the young artists may channel their gifts into commercial endeavors and then forget their dreams of doing more groundbreaking and risky work. They may work as editors instead of writers, film editors instead of filmmakers, commercial artists instead of fine artists, and get stuck within shouting distance of their dreams. Preaching to the choir, sister. It's funny that she mentions film editors specifically, because I've spent a lot of time post-graduation thinking about how film editing is what I'd like to fall back on if filmmaking does not pan out. And look, I do think it's good to have a backup plan. I don't want to be completely fucked if this doesn't pan out, because filmmaking's hard. And as much as I'd like to manifest and trust that this is going to work itself out, it's scary, and there are some doubts. I have been thinking that film editing might be a decent thing to do if this doesn't pan out. I enjoy editing a lot. I've got some experience with it. And I've been looking for film editing work for the last year, and maybe I should just let go of that. for a little while. I haven't had any luck in finding an editing job, and maybe there's a reason for that. One of the other major topics this week was gain being disguised as loss, and taking your failures and your losses and using them as a means of strength and progression. This is something I've had in mind for a while, but I just feel like Julia's take on it really spoke to me and again, pieced together a lot of things. Sorry about that bird. I feel the way Julia articulated everything about that just really made it all click for me. I like the idea of thinking about how loss can serve you, how you can turn these losses and make them beneficial to your life and your growth as a person. And yes, for sure, that's something to think about as an artist. But I also think, again, just how you can use that for life, how you can grow from these failures or things that have really hurt you. Because as hard of a pill as it may be to swallow, every loss in life can lead to good. Something else that Julia mentions is how important it is to take immediate action as an artist when there is failure. It made me think about when my short film that I made got rejected from a very small film festival. Film festivals are kind of like university applications. It's always a good idea to submit it to a bunch of small ones in case the bigger ones don't pan out. Because if it doesn't get into bigger ones, hey, at least it made it into some smaller ones. I heard from a smaller festival early on that it didn't make the cut, and that was a really big ego check, and frankly a big loss, because I put a lot of work into that project, and I thought, maybe a bit naively, but I thought that might help me, propel me as a filmmaker and get my career started. And the fact that it got rejected from such a small festival really stung. But I remember in that moment, it made me rethink my path. And it's led me to this project that I'm working on now. It is really hard sometimes to keep that resilience up, because I know there's going to be a lot of things that are going to test it, to test my faith in my skills and my desire to become a filmmaker. I know it's not going to be easy, but if I want this, and I really want this, I have to just keep pushing. And this will be a good mantra to have for me going forward, because I'm going to continue to face a lot of losses. And it's important to just keep, even in small ways, just keep the momentum going, keep putting time into your artistic practices, and keep making action towards your goals. And I think doing it immediately when there's loss. And again, I think that applies to anything in life. Just taking a step forward into the direction you want to head in is the way to go, as soon as possible. The more you can minimize spending time wallowing in your sorrows and your losses, the better. Another thing that spoke to me in this chapter was age and process. And Julia gets into how a lot of artists feel too old to try and therefore to fail. There definitely is some feeling that I should be doing things that are going to propel me to be a professional sooner, and that I can't be wasting time. Also, at the same time too, letting go of certain ideas or wants because I haven't put in the time in, and I'm too old to put the time in now. Again, I've been speaking about my musical ambitions recently. That's something that resonates for me on this topic, because I have no musical skill. I'm in my mid-20s. How am I going to get to the state of being a professional now? And the only way to do it is to put the time in. Okay, this was a huge part of this chapter that spoke to me, checked me, made me think about my artistic progression, my goals, and how I'm using my time now. Julia talks a lot about how we tend to focus too much on the end result and the final product and how long it'll take to get there. And what's more important at this stage as a beginner is to just focus on the steps that it'll take to get there. That's something that I do all the time. Again, I was talking about my musical ambitions, think about how much time it's going to take to learn instruments and just learn song structure and how to make music that's worth listening to. And here's the thing. I think a reason I think this way a lot is I do want to be a professional artist in my 20s. I really do. And after graduation, I was very hell-bent on getting to that point as soon as possible. And unfortunately, it's just caused a lot of unnecessary stress. I don't fully want to let go of that. It is important to me that I stay driven on that goal, because I want to be successful while I'm young. I want to enjoy my youth and feel like I've made progression. And but that's fucking stupid, isn't it? How am I going to enjoy it if I'm under stress all the time? How am I going to enjoy it if I'm constantly thinking about how I'm not where I want to be yet? Because that's what I've been doing. And it's not making me happy. So, fuck that, honestly. Look, I still want to be a professional while I'm young, but does it really matter that much? As long as I get there, that's all that matters. Yes, it would be amazing in a few years if I could be a professional and I could be successful and I could be financially free to do as I please. But if it's going to lead to a lot of misery in order to get there, I don't know if it's worth it. So fuck that, honestly, man. Try, but don't kill yourself if you don't get there. Anyway, I really like the idea, though, of focusing on the process and not the product. I actually have a sticky note on my desk lamp that says, build your skill set first, because it's really important to me to keep that idea in mind. Because I'm not a professional yet. It's going to take time to get there. And I may as well do that now, because if I don't, then I'm never going to get there. So let's stop wallowing in why I'm not there yet and focusing on the baby steps to get there. I have another quote that I want to share. Fixated on the need to have something to show for our labors, we often deny our curiosities. Every time we do this, we are blocked. Another thing on that note, too, that I just quickly want to share is something that I do find frustrating is I'm very slow at getting things finished. A lot of my time spent working on my creativity, to the outside eye, it looks like I am just fucking around. And I've talked about this before in previous videos, but it's frustrating when you know you're spending a lot of time working on something and progressing, but you don't have a lot to show for it. And I think that's why I've become so product focused too, is I want to be able to show to my friends and my family, hey, I'm putting all this time into this final product. And the fact that I don't have a lot of that to show for myself yet, or the fact that at least so far these things are taking a long time, it does frustrate me. And I think I'm just caught up in fears that people think I'm wasting my time, even though I know that I'm not. And I just need to be okay with the fact that sometimes these things are going to take time and stop caring what people think. Speaking of taking baby steps, a big focus this week and a big reason why I actually feel like this was the most important week in terms of what was discussed in the chapters for me was Julia was big on breaking down the steps, and that was actually one of the tasks that we got into, which I'll get into shortly. But it was really nice to have something practical to focus on this week. And look, I've loved this book. I've really enjoyed this process so far. I'm getting a lot out of it. But one thing that has been frustrating me just a little bit, there hasn't been a lot of time spent practically figuring out your path. Maybe I'm being a bit naive. Maybe I'm being a bit impatient. I know you've got to take your time to get there, but I'm just fucking wanting to get going. And I know I need to take my time. I know it's going to take time to get there, but it's really nice to have some practical steps to be like, okay, this is how I can get from point A to point B. That was a huge focus on this week, and I loved it. Julia talks about filling the form, which is breaking the steps down to your dreams, breaking it into baby steps, and having a 1 month plan, a 1 year plan, a 3-year plan, and a 5-year plan. And I did that this week, and I'm excited about it. And it was really nice to actually feel like, okay, here's a guide, here's a path. Because that's one thing that can really suck about having artistic dreams, is it can just feel a little aimless and like you're making things and there's no real light forward or end in sight necessarily. And this felt really nice to feel like, okay, there's a path I can follow. Another thing about that same topic that really spoke to me was Julia gets into how creatives tend to dramatize the leap that you need to take. And my God, did this speak to me, because in these very videos, recently, I've been talking about my fears of taking that leap of faith and giving up on everything that I have and focusing solely on being a full-time artist. And look, I've had my hesitations for a reason, because Julia, man, goddamn, did this woman validate me this week. Julia gets into how we are dramatizing this way too much, how doing that is over. No, I've already said that. Sorry, I'm getting a little too excited here. Dramatizing the leap of faith this early in the process is dangerous, and we are in no place yet to restart our lives and put everything aside because we are still learning. And the focus right now is how to implement these baby steps into our everyday lives, make it something that's easy to stick to, not putting a ton of stress on ourselves about how we need to start new, but how we can start today with the lives that we have. And that as we do that, the big leaps will come when we're ready for them. Goddamn, did I need to hear this, because honestly, since week 4, I've been very stressed about the idea of throwing it all away and giving up on everything I have in my life now for the artistic pursuit. And I'm realizing now how foolish that would be. Look, I shouldn't even say that, because there are some legitimate reasons for doing that. I'm aware that I've got some freedom in my youth. I don't have a ton of responsibility. It might not be the worst time to jump, but not yet. Take my time, acquire my skills, take the baby steps, and then the giant leaps will be ready for them. Julia has another quote that I want to read that spoke to me, which is, "In fantasizing about pursuing our art full-time, we fail to pursue it part-time." I think I'm spending too much time looking at the big picture, looking at the life that I want to live, getting frustrated with myself that I'm not there or that I'm not living that life. And I need to realize and put that energy into the small steps I can take now to get there. Another quote, again, and this is exactly what I needed to hear, was, "No one is asking you to leap." So what's more important is consistency. And this is something that I don't spend enough time on. I've been a lot better in recent months about putting in time to being creative, but I still don't do it as much as I would like. My goal is to get to a point where I can be creative every single day in some way, in some small way. And it's really funny because right after graduation, I had the goal of every day treating my artistic goals as a full-time job and having a consistent routine in which I get it in. And I did struggle to be consistent with that early on, but I still stuck to it relatively well. And then about quarter of the way through the year, I started getting really stressed about still being in my same day job. And then I started focusing more on applying to jobs, doing more PA work, and all of that really threw off my consistency. And it's been that way ever since. It's funny to me that I took a year to realize that what I had started out doing in the first place was actually the right step. But that's okay. I'm also very grateful for my experience. I'm glad that I've had some time on set and seeing a little bit more of the film industry and seeing what it's like. It's definitely put things into perspective for me. So I don't regret any of it, but it is a bit funny that I've just kind of come back to the same idea I had right as I finished school. But again, you live and learn. So I am really going to try going forward to work creativity into every day of my life in small steps. I think that's going to make it way more manageable and will show me that if I just keep at it, I'll be able to get more things done. It'll become a lot easier, and I will hopefully just start making my way and really increasing my creative output, because that's one of the most important things to me right now. So this is really exciting to me, and I think I can find a way to easily work this into my life if I make it small. Another thing that I quickly want to mention is just thinking about the odds. Julia gets into how creatives tend to think about the odds and what may happen if we become famous or really big, or all the big scary things that might come of taking our artistic dreams more seriously. And you know what? You just got to take those things as they come. That's definitely something that I deal with. I mean, I even was doing this as a kid, man. Like, I remember I used to think about, like, how I'm going to protect my family when I become a big famous movie star. Like, dude, do a goddamn acting class first. You know what I'm saying? It's funny that we get into this way of thinking when we haven't even taken the steps into pursuing our own goals first. Again, I did mention this, but just to reiterate, I have found recently there's been a lot of thought about throwing everything away, quitting my job, occasionally even moving cities, and completely starting over and focusing on my art full time. Here's the thing that I've realized, and this is what I always end up coming back to every time I have these very extreme thoughts. The fact of the matter is, whether you take these extreme leaps or not, you are still you. You still have to live with yourself. You still have to do internal work to better yourself. So whether I move to New York, let's say, or not, that is not going to affect my life, really. I need to spend time doing the internal work first before I can take these big, extreme external jumps. And look, I think with the example of moving to New York, I'm sure that would be great for me. But I'd still be me. I'd still have my own life to figure out. Jumping into a completely new environment is not going to change that. Quitting my job and just living off of no income is not going to change that. I still need to find ways to improve first. And look, I don't want to get into the thinking that, I need to figure all my shit out first before I can take these big leaps. No, I definitely think taking big leaps and just trusting that things will figure themselves out can be good. And I'm definitely open to doing things like that in my life. And in some ways, I do think putting everything behind me would be kind of exciting, and having a clean slate would be a very interesting experience for me, especially while I'm young. And I don't want to continually scare myself into thinking that I need to be further ahead or I'm not ready yet, because I definitely could see myself getting into that way of thinking. I have found that with different experiences in my life that I need to have all these things figured out before I can take steps into taking action. Still, it's a good reminder that you got to ease into your desires. Taking these big, wide jumps aren't always the answer. So that's definitely put my mind at rest, because this is something I've been thinking about a lot. So I'm going to talk about some of the exercises this week. One of them was early patternings. Again, going back into our past, figuring out where these ideas about ourselves and these pressures that we felt, lack of validation, things like that, where they've come from. And look, I didn't have a perfect childhood, but frankly speaking, I'm very fortunate to have very supportive parents and a very supportive brother. They have been amazing at keeping me going, keeping me feeling sane, and just giving me my space and my time, and trusting me that I will figure it out. I've mentioned before, I do have a lot of fears about disappointing my parents. I don't really know where that stems from, to be honest, because when I really do think about it, there's a lot of support that they give me. I guess it's maybe just a feeling of guilt that because they've given me so much, I really want to give so much back to them. But I shouldn't let that cut me off from exploring or taking my time. I should ease the pressure, because I'm never going to get there if I'm always under stress. To be honest, that whole early patternings exercise just made me realize how lucky I've been to have them. Again, things haven't always been perfect. Childhood is never perfect. There's always going to be things that you need to work on as an adult. But I'm very blessed to have very artistically supportive parents. So love you guys if you're watching this. Okay, so now let's get into the tasks. My favorite task this week was the goal search. Again, I really liked how this week focused on looking at your life and figuring out practically how to be more creative in your everyday life. And so what the goal search was to break down your dreams, find a tangible goal that you can chase, and map out how you can take small steps to get there. And so I did that for my filmmaking goals, and I did that for my music goals. And I am very excited to actually start spending time taking these baby steps and working towards getting to my goals, and also being a little more shameless about them. I think a lot of the time, for one, I try to minimize my goals and my wants, because I feel if they're a little too high and I don't get them, I'll be disappointed. I still want to be sure that no matter what, I always enjoy being creative and working towards these things, and just chasing my dream of being a filmmaker. And if I don't get big awards, and if I don't get, to be honest, a little bit of fame for it, that's fine. But I also think it's important to just be like, no, I do want this. It is important to me that I chase this. And this would give me a lot of fulfillment in my life if I achieved awards and acclaim and financial freedom. So that was really nice to just be straight up about that. And again, figure out how I can achieve that. Really think about the steps I can take on how to achieve that and breaking it down so that it actually feels achievable. I really feel like this exercise in particular has absolutely revitalized me and my faith in my life. So that's great. There was also an exercise in your nurturing, in what may have been lacking in your childhood and what you can do now as an adult to parent yourself. This is especially for my mom if she ends up watching this. I don't think she actually is watching these, but if she is, Mom, here's the thing. You did a lot for me. I'm so grateful for that. Please don't feel like you didn't do enough to support me growing up. You did so much. But the fact of the matter is there's always things that are missed. Every child has things that they need to work through. And that's just a fact of life. So please don't be hard on yourself about this because I know how you think. Anyways, moving on from that personal note, a big thing for me that I realized with that is just maintaining a certain level of confidence. I don't think that was pushed in me enough as a kid to just have that level of self-assurance needed to just get through life. And look, it's fine. I'm glad I'm realizing this now, but it is so important, especially as someone pursuing an artistic career. You need to be assured in yourself. I think a lot of that is just continuing to have affirmations, giving myself some self-love, and affirming to myself every day that I'm on the right track. Okay, there are also some really fun things this week. There was a thing about listing out things that you want to do that you're not allowed to do, and really letting yourself imagine how you can do those things. That was fucking awesome. Just, again, being in touch with hidden desires. Also some time spent thinking about some things that you can do for fun in your life. That's something that I've talked about before. I feel like I struggle to just have fun, especially have fun by myself. And we made this big list about all these activities that we enjoy. If they cost money, if we enjoy doing them alone, if they're for our career, if there's any pain involved. And this will be a fun little chart that I can refer to when I'm bored and I want to just spend a little bit of time doing things for me. So that was great. Thank you, Julia, for that. There was another exercise spent where we got to fantasize about our ideal day and how we would spend our ideal day. One with the limitations we have on our lives now, and one with no limitations whatsoever. And this was a really fun way to think about how I can implement more fun in my life and just spend time doing things that I want to do more often. And again, I just really liked how it made my current everyday life feel more exciting and feel like I can spend more time doing things for myself, doing things for fun. This just felt very practical. I really liked how practical this week felt. It made me feel and have confidence in how I can make my everyday life now, with the limitations I have in the situation that I'm in my life now, how I can make it more fun, fruitful, exciting, and get myself on my path. And it's made me really excited about the life I have, made me very grateful for the life that I have, and made me trust that I'm going to figure these things out. I really feel revitalized from this week. And I really hope this feeling I can maintain going forward. And look, as I've mentioned, I'm on holiday right now. I'm a little bit relaxed. That might be playing into some of this. But I'm excited to get back home and implement these things into my everyday life. Hell, implement these things into my everyday life now and going forward. And I really, really hope that I can maintain this confidence and excitement about my life going forward. I know, and I'm glad that Julia got into this early in this chapter, because the fact is, no matter what, there is loss in life, especially as an artist. There's going to be failures. There's going to be hiccups along the way. There's going to be disappointments. There's no way around that. It's important to maintain a sense of confidence, trust that you will find strength and continue to grow along the way. And again, always be thinking about ways to improve and grow and keep life exciting and interesting. This was such a breath of fresh air. This was exactly what I needed to hear. And I really am looking forward to seeing how this is going to unfold. I just feel really at peace with myself and my life. And I really want to just enjoy that feeling as much as I can and try to maintain it as much as I can. And I feel like not only has this week made me feel this way, but it's also showed me the steps necessary to continue to feel this way. And that's what's been so great about this. To check in quickly about just some of the continual tasks this week. I'm not very good about this. I've noticed there's a lot of videos where I actually skip this step, so I'm sorry. But morning pages. This, I think, has been my best week. I did my morning pages 5 times this week. 3 authentic ones, full pages. 2 of them I had to cut short. I just didn't give myself enough time. But hey, I stuck to them. I got them in. Even if I was rushed, I still made a little bit of time in the morning to get them done. And that was really nice. And I think that's also part of the reason why I just feel so light. It's really nice. And I've mentioned this before, but I really like how the morning pages make me feel in tune with myself. Yes, it can be really hard to address difficulties you're facing in your life, but it's also so relieving to just be honest with yourself and figure out a way to work forward. My artist date, a little less exciting. Holy fuck. Hold on. There's something I wanted to quickly do. Give me 1 second. I will be right back. This does tie into my artist date. I will get into that in a second. But here's some lore for you. Here's some childhood Jonathan lore for you. As a kid, I used to spend a lot of time sitting out on my deck with a huge stack of paper, and I would draw movie posters of movies that I wanted to make, and I'd write descriptions on the back of them. And I have a lot of fond memories of summers as a kid, sitting out on my deck with a bottle of Orangina and making these movie ideas. We used to get them in these bottles, these like little potion-shaped bottles, and they were a staple of my childhood. And you cannot find them. First off, I don't think you can even find Orangina at all back home anymore. But in these bottles, they are nowhere to be found. And the fact that when we were just grocery shopping here, we found these is such a blessing. I miss these so much. So anyway, this ties into my artist date because I decided to spend some time making movie posters of just fake movies that, hey, I might make one day, maybe I won't. Just having a bit of fun with it, like I did as a kid, and writing the descriptions on the back of them. And it's just so funny that with that being my artist date, I found some Orangina while I'm on holiday. Anyway, I'm just so blessed to have been able to find these. So I wanted to include that in my video. But spending time doing that, kind of being in touch with my younger self has been really nice. And honestly, just makes me want to be more creative too. It takes me back to a time where I didn't overthink my ideas. I just made things because I wanted to. I had a lot more self-confidence. Anyway, synchronicity. I want to quickly mention synchronicity. Again, finding these, I feel like it was synchronicity. On a more serious note, though, for synchronicity. So, as I've mentioned, I've been working towards getting another short film made, and I've been spending a lot of time tweaking the script, and we've come to the realization that we are just not ready to shoot. We had originally planned to shoot the film in about 3 weeks, and we are not there yet. And there's actually been causing me a lot of stress this week that I just don't feel like I'm in a state where I can make it and have it come out well. I think the shoot would be very rushed. And so we've given ourselves more time. I feel very much at ease. And there's so far been no issues with postponing it. Because sometimes, and I've mentioned this before, when you have a film in pre-production for too long, the momentum can die. And so I was a little worried about postponing it again and pushing it back again. But I still think we are early enough in the pre-production process where it hasn't affected us too much. And so I'm just feeling very much at ease. I'm very blessed. I'm actually very excited about what this means now for the project. This gives us a lot more possibilities. Now, in terms of lessons learned this week, I will say again, with the fact that my cinematographer read this and really liked the new direction the script has taken, I noticed that made me feel very revitalized and excited about this project again, which is both a good and a bad thing. I'm glad that I have been able to recognize the new qualities of this latest draft. Still, I hope I can get to a point where I don't rely on external feedback to feel that way about my work. I still feel like I rely on other people too much and rely on other people to boost me up in order to feel good about myself and my work. And it's important to have a bit of that. I don't want to have a hyperinflated ego, but I would like to be more sure of myself and the quality of my work without relying on other people. It's really hard, especially when you work on projects for such a long time. It can be very easy to lose sight of the quality because you just spend so much time thinking about it and all you see are the flaws. But it's important to me to work on this and improve in that regard. One quick note I want to mention before wrapping this up, because I've been at this for a long time now, is since beginning this journey, this book, following this book, I just feel so much lighter. I feel way more at peace. I feel so much calmer. I actually feel a sense of faith and trust that I'm figuring things out. I'm not getting as bogged down in worries about where I'm going and why I'm not doing enough. I just feel a lot better about myself and my place in life and just feeling a lot more relaxed. And I want to make note of that because it feels really nice. Anyway, thank you for listening. I know this has been a long one, but this has been a big week for me. There have been a lot of key takeaways for me that I wanted to get into thoroughly in this video. So thanks for sticking it out with me if you've made it this far. I hope you've gotten something out of this too. I'm going to go continue to enjoy my holiday. I love you.